Good morning, everyone. We have Coach Payton for the call. Megan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Patrick. Coach Payton with Andrew Mason. Go ahead, Andrew.
Hey, Sean, when you reviewed the film, what did you see from your running game and relative to what you're trying to accomplish on the ground going forward?
Yeah, we're not all the way through the tape yet, just with our schedule. But I would say, look, there's some looks that we've got to be better at relative to when we're running a certain play into some tough looks where now you don't really have the leverage. We've got to do a better job as coaches, starting with me, and having solutions when the looks aren't what you're practicing. Overall, though, I think it's an area that here we are with 3 weeks left in the season, we have to find more consistency there.
Parker Gabriel, the Denver Post.
Hey, Sean, I know you're not all the way through the film, but first impressions, how did you think that Abrams, Drain, and Mathis played? And, obviously short week. So if Pat were to be, not in the mix, how comfortable do you feel with some young guys, maybe holding down the fort?
Yeah, number one, I thought those guys played well. That's the easiest way for me to answer the question. You guys know we don't talk about injuries, but I also don't want to talk about hypotheticals either. And I understand your question, but those two guys really played well, and I was encouraged.
Jeff Legwold, ESPN.
John, yeah, just not going into the injury specifically, but did you?
I'm not going into the injuries at all, Jeff.
Okay, well, I was just curious if you had any sort of
No
feeling
update.
about Pat.
I like Pat.
Okay, in general, yes. Okay, it just seemed like
I like him a lot.
He was moving around fine after the game, but I don't know how you saw him this morning.
Jeff. I appreciate your question. I like Pat.
Yeah, I think everyone does. Beyond that, with the young corners, can you expand on the decision to sort of how you used them yesterday in certain looks?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think going in, we wanted to focus with Damari in the base down in distances because we were able to kind of identify or have a better clue of who was playing what receiver, and then the sub packages. Chris got more of that work, and those guys handled that well. It was good. Two things took place yesterday. We felt somewhat positive about this young corner out of Pitt a few years ago, and it was good to see him getting back in and competing because he did a good job. And relative to the young player, we felt somewhat positive when we looked at him coming out in this year's draft. And the last 2 weeks, he showed some moxie, stayed with his guy, didn't panic when the ball's in the air. There's something about him. And so in both cases, I was really encouraged.
Eric Dalala, DenverBroncos.com.
Hey, Coach, several guys in the locker room talked about how impressed they were with Bo's mental strength yesterday to kind of bounce back and throw those late touchdowns. Could you just speak to kind of the resilience you saw from him to respond late in the game?
Yeah, look, this is a tough league sometimes, and I felt afterwards, when something like that happens, with that adversity early on, I get frustrated at myself. Am I getting them the right looks, the right plays? And but then later in that game when we needed it, he didn't flinch. There's a maturity and a moxie about him, which I love, and I think it's contagious to the team. And when you have that at the quarterback position, your team knows you're in every game. And when you don't have it, that's pretty difficult because deep down in their belly, they know that that's not the case. And that's something noticeably, you notice with him this year, especially, and with this team.
Zach Stevens, DNVR.
Hey, Coach, you told the team last night your plans for the next 2 weeks in terms of the schedule. What is it, and why did you decide to handle the schedule like this? Because you've always mentioned how Christmas is kind of a tough time to travel around.
No, Christmas is always the challenge in the NFL, period. All I wanted them to know was like, look, all right, we think we're playing the Bengals on a Saturday. I don't know if it's been announced yet or not, but we're just trying to manage the Thursday game and then the Saturday game so these guys can at least have answers for their wives. And that was really the whole point of it. You know, the focus obviously for us is this Thursday, but you know, for them with family traveling and whatnot. And so, you know, we're basically next week going to create, just pretend Saturday was the Sunday and work backwards. You know, Tuesday is going to be like a Wednesday for us, you guys. Wednesday will be like a Thursday. Thursday will be like a Friday, and Friday will be like a Saturday, and we'll travel.
Andrew Mason, the fan.
Hey, Sean, Zach Allen, what he's done this year, he's playing like 91% of the snaps. What have you learned about him in terms of his physical endurance to handle a very heavy workload for a D lineman?
Yeah, listen, it's impressive. I mentioned this earlier in the year when we were talking about Zach. You know, they play a different position, but I had Cam Jordan for all those years in New Orleans, and you know, he was the same way. You know, and I get kicked off. You know, we're playing him too many snaps, but Cam wanted to be on the field, and when you saw 60, play number 58, it looked like play number 8. So it's certainly a credit to him and his condition. Some guys have that staying power and that stamina and strength, and they're generally bigger guys. It's hard to do if you're a smaller player because you have to expend more energy down in and down out.
Coach, I believe that's all the questions we have for you today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.